Joining us to discuss from the White House is Deputy Treasury Secretary Michael Faulkender. Deputy Secretary, great to see you. First and foremost, I wanted to ask, from the position of the administration, what the Senate is trying to give birth to, does this big, beautiful bill increase deficits over the next couple of years?
Great to be with you, Dagan. Great to see you. This bill, in combination with the president's broader economic agenda of rebalancing international trade, deregulation, and bringing certainty to the American people, as well as the reductions in spending that are being pursued, when you bring all of those things together, the president's economic plan is going to reduce deficits. It's going to put us back on a path to fiscal sanity, and we're going to make sure that we target what the real problem is, which is the spending that exploded under the last administration. And so this bill accomplishes more in terms of reductions in mandatory spending than has ever been done in any other piece of legislation that the president has signed. And we are going to continue to show fiscal discipline in the work we're doing on the rescission package with Congress, as well as the budget that we're submitting to Congress. And so this president, this administration is fully focused on making sure that we improve the fiscal situation in this country, and this bill is an extremely important contribution to seeing that happen.
Question for you, Michael, about the dynamic scoring. As a former member of Congress, it was always frustrating the Congressional Budget Office would come out and score a bill, but they didn't take into account the dynamic scoring. For instance, in the last Trump tax cut, they said that, oh, this would increase the deficit and it would do all these negative things. But even though tax cuts came into place, revenue to the Treasury went up. So what kind of growth, what sort of economic growth should the country expect, do you expect, once this bill is passed?
Yeah, you've pointed to exactly the issue, which is that if you look at the score that the Congressional Budget Office provides, the economic assumptions that it makes is that without the bill, we'll have 1.8% economic growth, and with the bill, we'll have 1.8% economic growth. Well, that makes no sense at all. When you look at all of the pro-growth activities that the administration is focused on, and in this bill alone, if you bring back full expensing on capital equipment, if you have the R&D tax credit, if you have immediate expensing of new factories, if you provide an interest deduction on the purchase of new cars that stimulates production of automobiles here in the United States, all of those things are pro-growth. And the idea that CBO would say, well, it has no impact and therefore there's no dynamic score effect, we just completely disagree with it. And Jason, you pointed to exactly the episode we should focus on, which is what actually happened after the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. You saw growth come in much higher than anticipated. Receipts went up. We do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And so what we want to do is bring tax certainty to the American people, provide these new growth incentives, and then tackle the true problem, which is spending.
Well, if the debt ceiling gets lifted this week as it's passed, what I wanted to ask you, what could you ask the bond market or investors to absorb from that? Because the Treasury will have to replenish its cash account, and the national debt will reach $38 trillion by September, based on some amounts. And you've got $7 trillion in debt that needs to be refinanced just this year.
Right. So it is the case that once the debt ceiling gets extended in this bill, it's going to give us the ability to rebuild the Treasury general account. And so there will be a significant amount of issuance that takes place in order to move us away from the extraordinary measures that we have had to operate since January 2nd. The Biden administration did not leave us in a sound fiscal situation. And as the secretary himself has said, it took us a while to get into this fiscal situation. We're working as fast as possible to put us back on a viable path, but that is not going to happen overnight. The objective is to bring deficits down over time so that we get back to that 3% of GDP fiscal deficit target that the secretary has laid out, because if the economy is growing faster than that, then those deficits are sustainable. And so we are going to have to increase the amount of the debt ceiling. We are going to have to rebuild off of the fiscal situation that the Biden administration left us in. But because of this bill and because of the overall agenda of this administration, we are putting ourselves on a path to a sustainable fiscal situation.
Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Michael Faulkender. Great to see you, Deputy Secretary. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.